I told everyone my husband was impotent to cover up my affair, but he just smirked and did this. I'm using a throwaway because everyone in my real life hates me. And honestly, I kind of get it. I've screwed up in a way I can't walk back from, and now I just exist in the mess I made. I don't expect sympathy. I just want to say it out loud. Let's call me Lily and my ex-husband James. We got married in 2018. Late 20s, good jobs, decent savings. Two people who thought they were ready for everything. And for a while we were. The first 2 years were actually great. We traveled, tried new food every weekend, had sex in weird places just because we could. Stupid, happy, in love stuff. We'd pass notes in grocery stores. He once brought me lunch during a client meeting just because he had a feeling I forgot to eat. We were one of those annoying couples everyone rolled their eyes at. Then the world shut down. When the lockdown started in 2020, it felt like a break from life. We worked from home, made sourdough, binge-watched true crime, drank wine on Tuesday afternoons. It was fine, until it wasn't. Being stuck together all the time slowly sucked the life out of us, or maybe just out of me. It wasn't like we fought, we just dulled. Same walls, same face, same conversations. Day in, day out. He'd talk about virtual team meetings and how his mouse was glitchy, and I'd feel this irrational rage that I was stuck in this house with him, and only him. There were days I'd lie in bed and wish he had to go into the office, or that I could magically disappear. I started fantasizing about meeting someone else, not even romantically, just someone new. A new voice, a new smell, anything. James didn't change overnight. It was more like he faded. He stopped asking what I was working on. He stopped making dumb puns during breakfast. I think he felt it too, but neither of us knew what to do. There were weeks where the only real words we exchanged were, "Can you take the chicken out?" or "Your laptop charger's here." We stopped having sex, or when we did, it felt robotic. I bought lingerie. He said I looked great, then rolled over 5 minutes later. I brought up therapy. He said okay, but dropped out after 2 sessions. Always said he was just tired. He never yelled, never blamed me. He just sort of disappeared while still being there. I know now that's probably depression, but back then, I took it personally. I thought he didn't want me. I thought maybe I married a man who didn't actually like me, or worse, didn't see me anymore. And once that thought planted itself, it grew like mold. I started resenting him. He'd do normal stuff, fold laundry, cook dinner, ask what show I wanted to watch, and it annoyed me. Not because it was bad, just because it was him, and I hated that about myself, but I still felt it. I started looking at him and thinking, this is it, this is forever. That's when I met Mark, and that's where everything started falling apart. Then Mark happened, not some hot fantasy guy or anything, just a coworker, divorced, kinda quiet, a little worn down the way I felt most days. We were stuck on this awful project together, constantly behind schedule, barely sleeping, running on vending machine coffee and mutual frustration. He started asking how I was holding up, not in a polite way, but like he actually wanted to know. I told him I was fine at first. Then I started telling the truth, that I was bored, that I didn't even feel married anymore, that I couldn't remember the last time James looked at me like I was a person and not a task to check off. Mark would just nod, say stuff like, "That sounds really lonely," or "You deserve better." Stuff James never said. It didn't happen all at once. One night after a really bad meeting, we ended up getting drinks at some depressing bar that smelled like old fries. I don't even remember what we talked about. Our crappy marriages, maybe, or how tired we both were. I just remember thinking, I don't feel invisible right now. We didn't sleep together that night, but the emotional part started there. The little inside jokes, the texts that lasted too long, coffee breaks that turned into lunch, compliments that crossed the line. I should have stopped it. I didn't, because it felt good, because it felt like someone saw me again. And once it crossed over, it got messy fast. We started hooking up during work trips, fake ones mostly. Cheap hotel rooms with bad lighting and too many excuses. It wasn't passionate or romantic. It was sad, sweaty, and quiet. But it gave me something James didn't anymore, attention. Mark would say crap like, "You're not crazy, he's the one who stopped showing up." And I'd nod like I wasn't doing the exact thing I used to hate, emotionally checking out. Every time I came home, I looked at James and just felt angry. He'd be reading or folding laundry or making dinner, and I'd think, if you cared this much back then, maybe I wouldn't have needed someone else. I twisted everything to justify it. His silence became rejection. His tiredness became failure. I convinced myself I was escaping, not cheating. The worst part is, I knew it was wrong. I knew I was destroying something, but it didn't stop me. Because being wanted, even in a crappy hotel room by a man who barely knew me, it was addictive. And James? He just stayed in his quiet bubble, didn't ask where I was, and I kept going. Everything started falling apart the night of my mom's birthday dinner. I wasn't supposed to drink. I'd promised myself that. Just show up, smile, be present. But I walked into the restaurant already pissed off because James was late. He claimed traffic. I claimed he didn't care. Everyone else was there. My mom, my 2 sisters with their husbands, even my younger brother, who usually bails on everything. Mark had texted me earlier. You don't owe them anything, especially not him. I should have put my phone away. I didn't. I ordered wine before James even sat down. Then another, then vodka. I wanted to feel numb, or bold, or something. He showed up 40 minutes in, calm as ever, kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong, asked my mom how her hip was doing, made small talk with my sister's husband. I sat there stewing, watching him pretend like he hadn't been sleepwalking through our marriage for a year. And then my sister announced she was pregnant. Everyone clapped. My mom teared up. Someone joked about who was next. And then all eyes turned to me. I don't know what snapped in my brain. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was the guilt clawing at me. Maybe it was just the ugly part of me that needed someone else to take the fall. I laughed, loudly, bitterly, and said something like, "Yeah, well, that's not really in the cards for us. Kinda hard when your husband can't perform." The table went dead silent. My mom's eyes went wide. My sister literally choked on her water. Someone muttered, "Jesus, Lily." James didn't flinch. He just set his fork down. Slowly. I remember that sound. The soft click of silverware on porcelain. I was already in it, though. Already committed to the lie. I shrugged and sipped my drink like it was no big deal. I mean, come on. We've been married 5 years, and not once has he brought up kids. Maybe because he knows it's not possible. I laughed again, but no one joined me. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. Not in a good way, Dot. Then I said the thing I can never take back. I think we should get a divorce. I said it loud, clear, right there in front of everyone, Dot. My mom gasped. My sister stared at me like I'd slapped her. I could feel my brother-in-law shifting uncomfortably beside me. James leaned back, still calm, too calm. He took a napkin, wiped his mouth, stood up slowly, and said in the most terrifyingly quiet voice I've ever heard, "Don't bother coming back to the house. You'll get the papers." Then he turned and walked out. No scene. No yelling, no begging me to explain, just done. And just like that, my whole world cracked. Dot. At first I played it off, rolled my eyes, told my sister, whatever. He probably wanted me to say it so he didn't have to. I was still drunk on my own story, still believing I was in control of the narrative. But when I got back to the house later that night, my key didn't work. He'd changed the locks. There was a manila envelope taped to the door. Inside, a polite note saying my things would be packed and left with the concierge in the morning. I could schedule a time to pick them up. His lawyer's card was stapled to the back. No message, no let's talk, nothing. I stood there at 1 a.m., buzzed and shaking, and realizing for the first time that I might have just destroyed my life in a single dinner. I slept on my sister Rachel's couch that night. She didn't say much. She just handed me a blanket and went to bed. She'd been at the dinner, too. She knew I was spiraling. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't blame James for leaving. I blamed me. The next morning, I woke up hungover, ashamed, and completely unprepared for what came next. It didn't all fall apart at once. That night at the dinner was just the match. Everything else burned slowly. After James kicked me out and the locks were changed, I kept waiting for the big moment. The screaming match, the meltdown, the dramatic fight you see in movies. But it never came. Just silence. A silence that stretched and hardened into something sharp. At first, I still had Mark, or so I thought. We started texting more, talking more openly now that I was free. I even stayed over at his place a couple nights. He said stuff like, "I'm proud of you for taking control of your life." And I clung to that like it meant something. I honestly believed we'd just weather the storm and come out the other side. Then one Tuesday, I walked into the office like normal, coffee in hand, pretending I wasn't internally imploding, and HR called me in. Mark was already there, sitting across from our HR manager, looking like someone had sucker punched him. On the desk were printed emails, hotel receipts, texts. My stomach dropped. I barely remember what was said, something about violating workplace policy, abuse of company resources, inappropriate conduct during work-sponsored travel. I remember hearing the word terminated and thinking they meant me, but they looked at Mark. He was the senior. He was gone on the spot. I was allowed to resign voluntarily. I tried talking to him afterward, waited near the elevator, shaking. He walked right past me. "Mark." He didn't even look at me, just muttered, "Don't contact me again," and kept walking. 2 hours later, I was blocked on everything. That's when it hit me. I didn't just lose James. I didn't have Mark either. I was officially alone. No job, no man, no apartment of my own. When I told Rachel what happened, she said quietly, "James did this, didn't he?" I nodded. I don't know how he got the evidence. Maybe the shared car GPS, maybe old bank statements. Maybe he hired someone. Maybe I was just that careless. But somehow, he'd gathered it all. Carefully, legally, silently. He never once confronted me. He just handed it over to HR and let gravity do the rest. I moved into a short-term rental. My savings started bleeding. Job interviews were humiliating. I could tell people had Googled me. No one said it, but the energy was different. They saw me as a problem. Then came the divorce papers. I opened the envelope with shaking hands, half hoping he'd included some final note. He didn't. Just cold, clean paperwork. Page after page of numbers, facts, legal terms. And then the clause. Pursuant to the fidelity clause in the prenuptial agreement, the respondent forfeits all claims to spousal support and joint assets in the event of proven infidelity. There it was, in writing. I wasn't getting a dime. No house, no car, no savings, nothing. James didn't even fight me in court. He didn't have to. He had the receipts, literally. Hotel bookings, messages, photos. And once that was submitted, my lawyer told me, "Honestly, we'd be wasting your money trying to challenge this." I wanted to scream, to beg, to explain. But what was I even going to say? That James was emotionally distant? That I was lonely? That I felt neglected, so I nuked my marriage? The court didn't care how I felt. They cared about what I did. And what I did was cheat, lie, defame my husband publicly, all provable, all mine. After the hearing, I walked home in heels that blistered my feet, crying so hard I couldn't see traffic lights. No one stopped to ask if I was okay. I guess I didn't look like someone worth stopping for anymore. I ordered takeout I couldn't afford, sat on the floor of my apartment with a plastic fork and cold noodles, and realized I had nothing left. Not James, not Mark, not money, not a single friend who still fully trusted me. Update. It has been a while since my last post. For a while, I was in denial. I thought once the dust settled, once James got the divorce he clearly wanted, he'd reach out. Maybe not to reconcile. I wasn't that delusional. But to talk, to check in, to get closure. But he didn't. He didn't even text. Not a single word since the night he walked out of that restaurant. I only knew what was going on through scraps. Mutuals who still followed him, posts I shouldn't have looked at, people who talked just loud enough at brunch tables for me to hear. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, someone tagged him in a photo. It popped up in my suggested tab. Of course it did. My whole algorithm still thought I was married to him. It was from some fundraiser, James in a navy suit, smiling, laughing, arm casually draped over a woman's shoulder. She wasn't stunning, not model type, just soft, easy-looking, the kind of face that doesn't try too hard. Her hair was curly, pulled into a clip. She wore a long dress that felt like it belonged. She looked like someone who made soup from scratch, who read to kids in libraries. I stared at her for too long, and her name was Emily. Someone had tagged her. I clicked, of course. Public account, teacher. A few blurry photos of gardens, a quote in her bio about kindness. My stomach twisted. The next week, I ran into someone from James's side. one of his old college friends. I tried to act normal, asked how James was doing. He looked at me like I'd coughed during a funeral and said, "He's doing great. He and Emily are expecting, actually." I don't remember what I said. Maybe nothing. Maybe something stupid like, "Oh wow, that's fast." I just remember walking to the bathroom and throwing up in a stall with a broken lock. He was having a baby. I sat on the floor of that bathroom for almost half an hour. The man I claimed was emotionally impotent, who I implied couldn't give me a family, was now starting one with someone else. Publicly, proudly, with a woman who looked like the complete opposite of everything I had become. And me? I was living in a tiny apartment with water-stained ceilings and leftover IKEA furniture. The kind of place you never light fully because you don't want to see it too clearly. I was working temp admin jobs at offices that barely acknowledged me, answering phones for dentists and sorting mail for people younger than me who had no idea I once helped manage six-figure accounts. I lied on my resume just to get interviews. The silence from everyone else in my life was permanent now. Rachel stopped replying. My sister sent me one text months ago, "I'm glad you're getting help," and never followed up. My mom didn't invite me for Thanksgiving. I spent it alone with gas station wine and a frozen dinner. And Mark, completely erased. Deleted me from everything. Pretended like I never existed. Last I heard, he'd moved out of state. Probably started fresh. I doubt he ever mentioned me. In every version of my life, I'd been replaced. At work, in love, in family. James never posted anything petty. Never told his side publicly. He didn't have to. He just lived well. He gave me no quotes to screenshot, no angry emails to dissect with my therapist. He just disappeared. He removed me from his life like a stain on a white shirt, swiftly, quietly, completely. That was the revenge. I thought I was punishing him that night at dinner. I thought humiliating him gave me some kind of leverage. I thought if I got loud first, I'd be the one telling the story. But James didn't need volume. He needed time. And now, a year later, he's a husband again, a soon-to-be father, a man people describe as resilient and graceful. And I'm the ghost people lower their voices around. Final update. It's been almost 2 years since the dinner, since I humiliated him, since he told me I'd get the papers and not to come home. Sometimes it feels like it happened last month. Sometimes it feels like it happened in a past life I made up. People always say time heals everything. That's not really true. Time just makes things quiet. The noise dies down, the outrage fades. But the consequences? Those just settle in and become your normal. I still work the same admin job. It's nothing special. The pay's okay. I share an apartment with a girl in her 20s who vapes indoors and leaves sticky notes about dishes. I keep my head down. Nobody there knows who I used to be. That's probably a good thing. James got married a few months after our divorce. I saw a photo someone tagged him in, him and Emily at some baby shower. She looked tired and glowing in that way moms do. He looked happy, relaxed, the way he never looked with me in those last couple years. They have a baby now, a daughter, I think. Someone told me her name was Nora. I don't stalk him anymore. That was a habit I had to break. At first, I kept thinking he'd at least reach out once, maybe just to say something, anything, not to get back together. I'm not delusional. But just to acknowledge that I wasn't always like this, that we had something once, but he never did. And I'm starting to understand why. Because I didn't just cheat. I didn't just lie. I used him. I rewrote the story so that I was the victim and he was the failure. And he didn't correct the record. He didn't fight me on it. He just walked away and built a life so far removed from me that it's like I never existed. That's what hurts now, not the anger, not the fallout, just how replaceable I became. People don't date me, they Google me, they don't say no to my face, they just stop texting back. That's how it goes now. And again, I get it. If I saw my own name online, I wouldn't reply either. Sometimes I think about that girl who wrote him a first anniversary card, the one who snuck notes into his work bag and still believed love was enough. I don't know where she went. Sometimes I wonder if he ever talks about me to Emily, tells her the story, but I doubt it. I think I've just been filed under mistake and moved on from. That's fair. There's nothing dramatic about where I am now, just quiet. I go to work, I go home, I cook for one, I don't check my phone like I used to. I don't expect anything anymore. I guess that's what I've learned. Sometimes the worst revenge isn't what someone does to you. It's that they just forget you existed. And honestly, he should.